This will fill my time. Right? And then I don't have to do anything. No. You guys aren't going to let me look that easy.
No. Okay, why is it not giving me that option? So I'll have to unset the slideshow. It's not giving me that option. So let me see if we can do this. Let's see if we can see this there. Alright, sorry. Yes.
So I'm going to find something out about this photo. Is it working? Now we're not getting any of it.
Technology, right? Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh,
You can see it, there we go.
okay. I just want to point out that yes, Mr. Rogers and I do go to the same tailor. That's funny there. And I'm bringing stonewashed jeans back.
Sorry.
So we good?
Just start talking and it'll all happen.
It'll all happen. All right. If you had known me as a fifth grader and asked me what I wanted to do with my life, I would have given you the same answer then as I would now. I want to tell stories. In elementary school, I would have told far different stories than I do now. Tales laden with drama and flair, with far less of an emphasis on facts or logistics, where often the improbable not only became possible, but likely. At 29 years old and as a managing editor of a newspaper, I, like most of the people in my profession, and despite what the White House and your Facebook news feeds might tell you, am all about the facts. I'm also, as my reporters will tell you, very interested in what I call lean meat. I tell them don't use 5 words when 2 would do. Unfortunately, because of the nature of my job and the time we live in, I don't get the joy of using a green pen to expertly extract the fat from my articles with surgical precision, leaving just the lean meat like my high school journalism teacher Pete Carrolley used to do when editing my stories. I'm instead relegated to using my laptop, wearing out my trackpad and delete key, all the while making faces that would put Jim Carrey's expressions to shame. But my favorite part about this job isn't playing the role of executive chef in my newsroom. It's the opportunity I'm afforded every day to tell other people's stories. While anyone who knows me will tell you that I have a healthy ego, right, Deborah? When it comes to my job, I never want to be the center of the story. That's the way I was taught to do this job by every mentor I've ever had, and that's just the way I like it. So while I'm certainly not lacking in confidence, it's always been very difficult for me to write about myself. That's why when Nina asked me to share a story with you, I was hesitant. But as you can see, Nina, much like the Royal Canadian Police, always gets her man. So here I am, and here's my story. Storytelling has been an integral part of my life for as long as I can remember. It started with Batman the Animated Series and the 1987 version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Cartoons that featured characters who sought justice and lived by a moral code spoke to me. And it shaped me as much as anything or anyone in my life. My mother recorded the weekly adventures of Bruce Wayne, Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael for me on VHS. So when I got home from a tough day in the rough and tumble world of pre-K, I could watch Batman foil another one of the Joker's evil plans and listen to Master Splinter dish out wisdom to 4 turtles over pizza. Those stories served as inspiration for my own tall tales, which, before I was handy with a pen and paper, and before I had access to a computer, let alone a laptop, which we can see how good that's doing us anyway, required using action figures, or sometimes my fingers, when a toy wasn't readily available. This type of storytelling continued as I got older, and as I transitioned from cartoons and action figures to a basketball and the NBA on NBC. It was in that realm where I found my first two role models, outside of fictional characters and my father, of course, who I will get to later. I fell in love with basketball for a number of reasons, too many to mention in this context, but one of those reasons was my mother's love for basketball. In the early 1990s, she was a big Chicago Bulls fan. When a parent is a fan of something, you have two choices as a kid. You can either fall into line behind them and adopt that something as your something, or you can rail against them and go in the opposite direction. Choosing Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers was probably my first act of rebellion, and it brought me joy. Well, and a lot of pain because, Michael Jordan. I grew up in Michigan and rarely had access to cable, so I could only catch a Pacers game if and when they played on national television, and that was almost always on NBC. It was there that I was introduced to Bob Costas, the play-by-play extraordinaire who weaved a tapestry of words on such a consistent basis that it not only made me romanticize about basketball, but about storytelling as well. Fast forward to 5th grade in a weekly creative writing class that required a short story by semester's end. I decided to write mine in the style of a play-by-play announcer covering the NBA Eastern Conference Finals, a la Bob Costas. I had plenty of practice writing stories like that one, but not on paper. It was on the basketball court that was my grandmother's driveway in Tustin, Michigan. I would play for hours on my own, doing my own play-by-play, my own post-game interviews. It was good stuff. I was also the starting point guard, playing alongside Reggie Miller and company, leading the Pacers to glory, always in the most dramatic fashion. But the Pacers were nowhere to be found in the short story I submitted. This one featured the Detroit Pistons and the Los Angeles Lakers. Sure, the Lakers play in the Western Conference Finals and would never be a finalist in the Eastern Conference Finals, but I knew the Pistons and the Lakers rosters intimately. And as a 5th grader, that's about all you need. I listened to Pistons games under the covers when I was supposed to be sleeping, several nights a week via a Walkman. I don't know if I'm glad most of the kids are gone because they won't know what a Walkman is. To the sweet sounds of George Blaha. The Lakers were on the precipice of a dynasty, and it's easy to write if Kobe and Shaq are doing all the scoring. Weeks after that particular class ended, I was notified that my story had earned me a Young Authors Award and 2 tickets to a luncheon where I would read a couple of excerpts from my story to those in attendance. This is where my dad comes in. That's my dad. Yeah, that's me, the little weird looking baby. And that's my mom. Weeks after that particular class ended, I was notified that my story had earned me a Young Authors Award and 2 tickets to a luncheon where I would read a couple of excerpts from my story to those in attendance. My father is as blue collar as they come and worked 7 days a week back then. In later years, he rarely had time to see my plays, my track meets, or football games, and he didn't really understand my interest in storytelling. Not as a concept, but as a career choice. It wasn't practical. He couldn't hold it in his hands. At least not yet. That came years later. On this rare occasion, my father was able to attend. He took off work and we spent the day together. That luncheon changed my life for a number of reasons. Because after I gave an animated reading of my story, the reactions of several people in the crowd, especially my father's, gave me the validation I never knew I needed. For a brief moment, and at such a young age, I had brought joy and amusement to a room full of strangers, and more than that, I had made my dad proud. When I walked back to my seat and saw the look on his face, I knew that I was on the right path. I didn't need a guidance counselor or a test to tell me what I already knew. I was a storyteller. Later, I would watch All the President's Men and decide that I wanted to be a journalist. Robert Redford's charm and charisma convinced me that Bob Woodward was way cooler than he actually is. Woodward's not that cool at all, actually. So, Redford, in his sweet corduroy blazer, sold me a bill of goods. But it's fine, because I bought a similar blazer in high school. And believe me when I tell you, I totally pulled it school, I went to Central Michigan University, where I became the sports editor and later the managing editor of Grand Central Magazine. The rest of this particular story, most of you already know. Circumstances beyond my control led me to St. Joseph County and later to Three Rivers, where I would use my passion for storytelling as a staff writer and eventually as the managing editor of the Three Rivers Commercial News. My position with the commercial led me to find people that make up culture is not optional. And those people, who eventually became my best friends, led me here to Florence. I'm where I am today because of the stories I've been lucky enough to tell. So thank you for letting me tell this one.
Alek, thank you so much. I was on the mom end of those generations of young authors and play-by-play, and yes, I can just picture you in all your stages of storytelling. Thank you so much. We now have another opportunity to offer our gifts, these that go to our congregation and beyond. Will you pray with me? Today I thank you, God, that from the miracle of birth, you have gifted each of us, and that you have shaped us to reflect some part of your character. Today we thank you for Alek and his passion for story. We thank you for the children and their willingness to be helpers. Thank you for this congregation and all the denomination and mission work to which we contribute. Bless us. Help us be your gift to the world through this money. Amen. This is our opportunity to share reflections on our worship experience today. Things that we think contribute to what is being said.